The radio crackled with a sound that felt like panic dressed up as static. "She's not on the grid," someone said, voice tight. "She can't be there." But the mission timer was already bleeding minutes, and the team was trapped in a narrow canyon with enemy forces tightening like a vice. Every second mattered. Every second, the thought grew heavier. If she doesn't show up, we lose them. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. No one expected her. Not because she was weak, not because she wasn't capable, but because she was the kind of person the world learned to ignore. Her name was Leela Hayes, and she had spent most of her life proving her presence was real. She'd learned early that the loudest voices didn't always belong to the strongest people. Sometimes they belonged to the ones who were simply allowed to speak. Leela stood on a rocky ledge above the canyon, the wind whipping her hair into a chaotic halo. She watched the mission unfold through binoculars, the distant figures moving like ants across a scar in the earth. She could hear the gunfire, muffled but relentless, and feel the tremor in the ground from the explosions below. The air was thick with dust, and the sun turned the rocks into a furnace. She should have been safe here, hidden, invisible, but the truth was, she couldn't stand still. Not when she knew she could help. She'd been told it was impossible. The intel had been clear. The route was blocked. The enemy had the high ground, and the extraction point was compromised. The team had no support, no backup, and no way to move without being seen. It was a trap, and the trap was closing. The first time Lila saw the mission report, she felt a familiar, painful anger rise in her chest. The same anger she'd felt when people dismissed her because she didn't fit their image of a hero. She didn't have the uniform, she didn't have the rank. But she had something else, something the mission couldn't afford to ignore. She had knowledge. She had experience. She had a mind that could read patterns the way others read maps. She had spent months studying the canyon's terrain, memorizing every twist and turn. She had walked it at night, alone, while others slept. She had learned the silence of the rocks, the hidden pockets of shade. The way the wind changed when someone moved through the pass, she knew where no one would think to look. The team's voices on the radio grew desperate. "We're pinned," someone shouted. "Can't move." Lila's hands tightened around her binoculars. She could see the enemy positions now, small, dark shapes perched on the ledges above. They were watching the canyon floor like hawks. The team below was stuck, exposed, and outnumbered. She had one choice. She could stay hidden and pretend she didn't see them. She could do what everyone expected, wait for someone with a title to take action. Or she could step into the impossible. Leela slid down the rocks, moving with a careful silence that made her feel like a shadow herself. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her breathing stayed steady. She reminded herself that fear was just a signal. It didn't have to control her. The canyon walls closed in as she descended. Dust rose in faint waves with each step, catching the sunlight and turning the air into gold. She paused behind a boulder, listening. The enemy's voices were close now, confident. They assumed the mission was a simple trap. They didn't know there was a ghost in the rocks. Leela moved again, deeper into the canyon's hidden path. The closer she got, the more she felt the weight of what she was doing. She was not supposed to be here. She was not supposed to intervene. The rules were clear, but rules didn't save people. She reached a narrow opening that led to a small ridge above the enemy's flank. The angle was perfect. She could see the entire canyon below, the team pinned like prey, and the enemy positions almost too close to count. She lifted her rifle, breath steady, hands sure. Then she saw the enemy sniper, figure hunched behind a rock, scope aimed toward the trap team. The sight made her stomach twist. She thought of the soldiers below who had never known her name, who had never looked at her as anything but background noise. She thought of the moment they'd be taken if she didn't act. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The shot cracked through the canyon air, precise and clean. The enemy sniper's scope dropped. The position went silent. Confusion rippled through the enemy lines like a shockwave. Then another shot, and another. Lila moved like a tide, each motion calculated, each target eliminated before the enemy could understand what was happening. The team below started to move. They didn't know who was helping them. They only knew the pressure was lifting. The trap was failing. They were watching the canyon open like a wound healing. The enemy began to retreat, their confidence shaken. The trap team pushed forward, coordinated and determined, moving as one. And then, from the ridge above, Lila disappeared again. When the team finally reached the extraction point, they looked up expecting to see a backup squad, a helicopter, anything. But the ridge was empty. The wind swept across it, stirring the dust. The only evidence of her presence was the faint smell of smoke and the echo of her last shots. The team leader stared at the rocks, eyes narrowed. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her face. But he knew she had been there, and he knew she had saved them. In the quiet aftermath, the team gathered, breathing hard, shoulders shaking with relief. Someone spoke first, voice soft, almost reverent. What was that? No one had an answer. But they all felt a tan, unspoken truth that echoed through their bones. Heroes Dante always arrive where everyone is watching. They sometimes appear where no one expects them. Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. The canyon returned to silence, but the story remained. And in the years that followed, whenever someone doubted what was possible, they would remember the day the impossible arrived quietly, from a place no one had looked. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe courage can come from anyone, anywhere, subscribe for more stories from Whispered Words, because sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones you never see coming.